Number 2 on my list, sticking at the running back position, is Roschon Johnson, 41% rostered, well worth 25 to 28%, maybe even 30% if you really need that running back here. I love this kid. And you're saying, well, if he's 41% rostered, obviously not out there in my league. Well, go check. Just because he was among the most dropped players following Thursday Night Football, he suffered a concussion. Given it was Thursday Night Football, good chance that he'll be ready to go. 10 days of rest here, typically, about the schedule that it takes to clear that concussion protocol. No guarantee, and that's the risk about blowing all your FAAB to go get the guy is we don't know that he'll exactly be out there, but what we do know is Khalil Herbert expected to miss multiple weeks with a high ankle sprain. Right now, they're weighing putting him on the short-term IR, which would be at least 4 weeks. That's my expectation, is that it will be what goes down. And Roschon Johnson was already a coaching staff favorite here. He has been a solid 76.2 PFF rushing grade on the season. He's averaging 4.9 yards a pop on the ground, 5.3 yards per catch. And he's just, you look at the eyeball test, the kid's a bull. He's barreling over defenders, breaking tackles left and right. And this lines up to what we saw in college. He actually averaged more broken tackles per attempt than Bijan Robinson, his backfield mate over there in Texas. And I don't fault him for not having a crazy production profile in college, given that he's playing behind one of the most elite in the game in Bijan Robinson. I thought Roschon was a very, very impressive backup to him throughout his college career. Now, we haven't seen much at the NFL level yet. Week 1 was very impressive. 17.5 fantasy points, running back 8, 6 catches, 7 targets. Everything was coming up Roschon. He hasn't done a whole lot since. In fact, he started to lose his grip on this backfield. We saw Khalil Herbert coming in for 70% or higher snap share in the past 2 weeks, but he's now hurt for at least the next 4 weeks. And I imagine Roschon, given the fact that Foreman's been a healthy scratch in the last 4 weeks, I definitely could see Roschon being the first man up, assuming he's healthy. Now, if he's not, and even while we're waiting this out, you got to also consider stashing D'Onta Foreman, 7% rostered. I've long been a Foreman guy just because I'm a big back enthusiast. 233 pounds, 6 foot. Oh, absolute monster. A rumbler. And the guy can actually catch. I think he's pretty underrated as a pass catcher. We've seen him rip chunk gains after chunk gains, even as a receiver, though, before. And he could definitely be this number 1 back in week 6 if Roschon does not clear concussion protocol. You get the Vikings, who they've stopped some backs, but they've also got ran all over by DeAndre Swift, Isaiah Pacheco bowling all over those defenders. That's the type of defense that will not, I don't think, handle D'Onta Foreman well. And last year, yes, it was up or down after Christian McCaffrey was gone. It was a split backfield between him and Chuba Hubbard. But when the game flow was in his favor, when they were up, not often, but in those games when they were the favorites or leading, D'Onta Foreman had some monster games. This is just to kind of emphasize his ceiling. We don't need to go through all the duds, the 4.1, the 2.4s, the 0.9. There's definitely a low floor here. Ceiling 16.5, 31.8, 19, 11.3, 22.5. 3 games in the top 6 running backs as a starter. Just when he's a volume guy. When he gets rolling, he's wearing out the defense, barreling into you all game. You don't want to keep tackling the kid. And so I think D'Onta Foreman, certainly, if he's starting this week, warrants. He'll be a high-end running back too, honestly, in my rankings, given the bye weeks. Given that. And Roschon, definitely the preferred option here. And even when, if let's say Foreman starts this 1 week, Roschon, I think, will come right in and be the starter future weeks. But there is the chance Foreman starts, sees 25 carries, rips 120 yards, and doesn't really relinquish the job either. So both of these guys, my first choice being Roschon, my second choice being D'Onta Foreman, definitely warrant your waiver wire consideration so far. And we'll wrap it up now, Wolfpack. My number 1 pickup of the week, drum roll. And while we're rolling for it, please do consider that thumbs up button. We'll get on to all your questions, our defensive streamers as well in a second. But that thumbs up would really do help us grow so much. If you enjoy what you're hearing, if this content's helpful for you, please do consider liking, subbing, becoming a part of the pack. My number 1 pickup of this week, though, very rare, uncommon compared to most of the experts here. That's KJ Osborn. Seen him as low as like 10, 15, 20 on lists. I think this guy is the best waiver wire pickup this week, the best bet to be a immediate producer and potentially rest of season guy you can lean on, especially if you need a wide receiver. Only 12% rostered. I think you can pay 25, 30% of your FAAB. Not a unload the wallet, like we said, for Devon Achane, Jerome Ford, Kyron Williams, Puka. Not one of those guys, but we've seen a crazy high ceiling here that I don't think a lot of people are acknowledging. Let's talk about it. 6+ targets in 13 games across his NFL career entering this year. It hasn't been pretty this year so far, but entering this year from 2021 to 2022, he saw 12 games, rather, of 6 or more targets. That's not that many, especially now that Justin Jefferson is out on IR 4 weeks. You've got to imagine KJ Osborn's getting at least 6 looks a week here on out. In fact, they've already come out and said that KJ Osborn is going to be the more immediate slide into Justin Jefferson's role, whereas Addison, sure, is going to see a nice uptick, but he's not playing the move around Justin Jefferson, getting to the slide. They're going to give that to KJ Osborn. Do I agree with that move? No. I think Jordan Addison definitely deserves to be the more heavily targeted guy, the more move around chess piece, but the coaching staff, the athletic, everybody's speculating that this is going to be the Osborn role. And you look at how he's produced when he's been actually used, and it starts to make sense why. In those games where he's seen 6 or more targets, he's averaged over 16 fantasy points per game. His season-long pace was 91 catches, 150 targets, 1,161 yards, and 11 touchdowns, 285 fantasy points. That would have been the wide receiver 7 ahead of Amon-Ra St. Brown last year for the pace of KJ Osborn. It wasn't just one crazy blow-up. He's had 14 or more fantasy points in those games of 6+ targets. 10 of 12 games, 83% of the time he's hit 14 or more points. And yes, there has been some huge blowups too, 31.7. But I'll go down the entire list. 16.7, wide receiver 12, 18.9, wide receiver 11, 31.7, wide receiver 2, 7.7, dud, wide receiver 52, 18.3, wide receiver 15, 17.8, wide receiver 16, 17.3, wide receiver 18, 14.7, wide receiver 21, 19.8, wide receiver 13, 6.6, dud, 20.1, wide receiver 14, and 14.6. I know that was but you could probably just hear over and over, double digits, double digits, double digits, top 15, top 15, top 15. KJ Osborn has thrived when used. This last week saw 9 targets right away with no Justin Jefferson. You know, in most of those, the final 15 minutes, 4 targets, 39 yards, 3 catches, in that last quarter of action for KJ Osborn immediately stepped right into that Justin Jefferson role. Now he gets Chicago, joke secondary, come on. San Fran, very beatable through the air. One of the most stifling run defenses in the league, but they definitely have weaknesses through the air. But yeah, I mean, they could probably swallow this Bears team too. So maybe a little sketchy there. They swallow the Vikings rather. And then you got Green Bay, Jair Alexander. I don't think he's just a shadow. KJ Osborn, Atlanta, mediocre at best. So the schedule right now really isn't bad. And what if it's just more than those first 4 games without Justin Jefferson? So if they lose, if God forbid they trade Kirk Cousins because they're trying to just put their eyes to the future, we see Justin Jefferson not come back this year. They might just decide it's not worth it. Why would we get our guy out here and risk potential further injury for our future franchise cornerstone? So there is a chance that KJ Osborn just remains the wide receiver 1 here the rest of the season, one of the most high volume in terms of attempts, in terms of total yardage, passing attacks. I know it's not the sexy pick. I know you guys probably want number 1 to be Roschon or one of these rookies, Amari, DeCaro. Nah, we've seen KJ Osborn thrive so well when he is getting at least, again, just 6 targets. That's not that tall of an ask. So he has really performed huge here. And so I do understand that argument. What about Justin Jefferson drawing the coverage? Is that going to really impact KJ Osborn? Sure could. I get that too. He's definitely benefited from that. But such a high ceiling. We've seen a solid floor too when he's finally getting used. So big KJ Osborn fan. He is my number 1 pickup. Again, 30% or so of your FAAB. Alrighty, Wolfpack. That wraps up our players for the night. We are now going to quickly cover my top 6. What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments. Check out some more videos and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.